Greetings and welcome to Georgian Crossroads. This is Byrne. It's time for another infected Georgia pandemic special. Might as well take this off, doesn't really matter. Now here's the thing, is that officially we're supposed to be wearing our masks in public, and yet I would say maybe 30% of the people aren't doing it or don't care anymore. And the others are wearing their masks. I often wear my mask until I'm at a place where it really doesn't matter anymore. And one of the things, I really hoped I wouldn't have to be making another one of these. It's October 13th, 2021. But it just seems that things have been piling up, and I should probably explain in this video where we are. And, what the next part in our saga is, because it isn't over, that's for sure. But yeah, I think as most people in the world are feeling this sort of limbo between states, we are certainly feeling that here. But one of the things that's important to me today to capture on film in some manner is this. It's a huge protest coming up. Unfortunately, I've only got one wide-angle lens today, so you can't really feel it. But traffic has been rerouted, and I'll explain the nature of the protest in just a moment. Meanwhile, if you enjoy this channel, do subscribe to it. Press like, and other things like that. After our second mask mandates on the streets and metro and public transportation shut down at the beginning of the year, things kind of got lifted in March and April. And then by May, we had mask mandates back on again. The numbers were climbing a bit. And then they announced that they would no longer be mandatory in Georgia as of July 1st. Public transportation was already working again, and so we went through most of the summer without masks, but then it became clear, what it seems to be is there's this pattern. The numbers start to go up, and then the masks go back on. And so, again, there was a 3-week special edition, and again, the metro and the buses were shut down, the marshrutkas, the little vans that take people around. And then things started, we kept the mask mandate since then. But as you can see, what starts to happen in Georgia is you'll see people wearing masks, and then you'll see a lot of people who aren't. And that can be looked at in different ways. As I think about the city, on one level, Georgia is a very unneurotic place. That is to say, people don't express worry very often. I'm sure, Georgians do get worried, but if I compare that with America, we seem extremely neurotic by comparison. And when I hear about the things going on back in the States, of the kind of wrangling between states and, how much you should wear masks, how much you shouldn't, I am grateful to be in a more relaxed environment. I think only once in the entire pandemic thus far have I ever been told to put on a mask when I didn't have one. And again, that was nothing that was necessary. It was just, I think a policeman was just saying, I should do something. But if you look at these people coming up the stairs, now this is coming out of the subways. And in the subways, everyone, there was someone who didn't. Everyone wears a mask. And they're pretty good about that. And they're pretty crowded. And when you get on the trains, you'll see everyone is wearing a mask as well. It's once they get out of the subway that they start to just kind of get more relaxed about it. And if I would describe this period, it has been a more relaxed period. Now, it seemed that the winter period was kind of the height of, going up into the middle of the summer. There's been deaths all along. There's a population here of roughly 3,728,000 people, and out of that population, currently, about 10,000 people have died overall, which is a 0.27 percentage, which is somewhat high. And out of cases here, we've had 715,000, giving us 19%. Almost 1 in every 5 people has had the virus here. I haven't, because I never kind of get lax about what I touch. And like here, where I'm standing in the subway and I'm in the very, very back car. If I was closer to the middle, there would be people all bunched around, but I try to stay in the least crowded car possible. In the USA, we have 13% of cases of people who have had the virus. And out of that, we've had a 0.08% death rate. So, on just raw statistics, America is doing better. I'm sure there are lots of other countries. And we're a small country here. But at the same time, like I say, I'm kind of glad I've been here. Because it just doesn't feel, it never feels that draconian kind of paranoid sense. I mean, even when there have been fines and other things, it just doesn't feel as intense. I think part of the reason for that is because people have experienced hardships before. You don't find a lot of the hand-wringing that you do in other countries. I think America and Canada particularly, people have just kind of gone nuts about this stuff because they're not used to any hardships. Whereas Georgia had a civil war in the 90s. They're used to hardships. They're used to trying to make do with things as they are. And so they, it's just kind of like, death is just seen as part of life. Sadly, most of the people who have passed on were older. Every now and then you'll hear of someone younger, but generally it's been older people. And I'm sure this era is going to mark the generations that are going through it. But again, Georgia, you just don't see that. You don't see the people pointing at each other saying, "You wear that mask. You don't do this." In fact, you would find just the opposite. If you were to run around doing that, people would look at you like you were kind of crazy. And I just wanted to show you the guy. That guy isn't wearing a mask. He's just singing on the side of the road. But he's standing apart from everybody. And masks. But what you often see is the mask just covering the mouth and not the nose, which to me is really ridiculous because, hey, the air is coming out of your nose, not your mouth if your mouth is shut. So, and I think Georgians being such a family-oriented country, and they're so hands-on, they touch each other all the time. I think that's part of the reason why the death rate has been a bit higher here than in other countries, because they just simply can't stop touching each other. Being an American, I can. And so I think that's the reason why I've felt nothing while I've been here. And yes, I went and got a vaccine, but I'm not going to make any big deal one way or another about that, because it's not worth spending time on, because it's so divisive in so many places. But I'm certainly not in favor of vaccine mandates. Walking around, you'll definitely see kind of quick and ready PCR tests for people to get on the planes or to cross over the border in a car. So you don't actually need the vaccine if you have a PCR test when you're about to leave. I think it's within 78 hours. And so they have these places ready to go. And at the same time, if you have a vaccine, you don't need the PCR test. And here's the latest news. The health minister has said, and I think that's the health minister there in the middle, has said there is no basis for a mandatory vaccine at this stage. So, they're not going to do the mandatory vaccine because it's Georgia. I mean, doing mandatory anything like that is pretty unusual. And one of the things, though, that started to happen as I was walking around, I started trying to get somewhere, and I noticed the buses weren't working, but they were there, but they weren't going anywhere. And you'll see both lights flickering on. And then you see these flags, and suddenly there's noise, people honking their horns, blowing horns. And that's when I realized there was some sort of demonstration. Now, what has happened to create this demonstration? This isn't an anti-vaccine demonstration, and yet it seems to me appropriate to cover it here. And it's not a, let us loose, because obviously everyone's on the streets. And in fact, you're going to see a lot less masks coming up here because it's a political demonstration. What has happened is Mikhail Saakashvili, the former president of the country, who led the country into what's called the Rose Revolution, has returned and essentially was put in jail because he is alleged to have committed quite a few crimes on his way out. Now, I cannot speak for Georgian politics whatsoever. I do know that if the crimes he is alleged to have committed are real, they're pretty serious, and they include things like torture and perhaps even murder. But, I don't know much about this, so I'm not going to speak about it. I'm sure if there's a Georgian, they're going to say one thing or the other. The country's been run by the Georgian Dream Party ever since then, whom we will meet further. One of the stranger episodes they call him Misha. One of the strangest episodes in Misha's return is the announcement of his Ukrainian fiance, which I guess was a shock to his estranged wife. Again, it's Georgian politics. I don't understand it all. I'm not going to make political comments here. So these are reporters here waiting for this parade demonstration to begin. They look at me as kind of a fellow reporter there, and I suppose in a way I am. But I think one of the things that Saakashvili wants is he wants his people to create such a ruckus that they have to free him from jail. So I stood at the front of the line and let them engulf me. You'll see the sign there that says Free Saakashvili. But let's walk with these people a ways. So one of the reasons they're carrying the Georgian flag, and you'll see this much more than in other political demonstrations, is because Saakashvili did some very good things. Among them was he kind of helped resolve a lot of the chaos of Georgian politics prior to him showing up on the scene. He got rid of a lot of the police corruption. He also brought into being this Georgian flag. And so the Georgian flag is linked with Saakashvili. Now, I think it's a pretty cool flag, and there's no reason to simply say it's this party's flag. But you'll see a lot of older people marching here. Guy waves at me. That's pretty cool. A couple people did that. They must think I'm actually like a photographer or a reporter. But one thing you'll notice is lots of older people here. And you'll see this in all Georgian demonstrations. You rarely see the only time I've seen lots of younger people was when there was an issue related to Russia overstepping its bounds. And also there were some, before I got here, related to one of the techno clubs. But that's the only time I've seen them in any force. Generally what you see here is and this makes things very different. You don't see the older men in Western countries coming out quite like this. So what's going to happen is they're marching on Rustaveli Avenue, Gamzuri. So they're walking down Rustaveli towards Liberty Square. They were up near what was called Revolution Square, and they're marching towards Liberty Square. And turns out there's a lot of people already there. I would say this entire demonstration, it's hard for me to make a head count, but I would say it was roughly between 5,000-6,000 people on the streets. And another thing that was fascinating to me was some of the intensity of the chanting. Sometimes they go, Misha, Misha. And that struck me as very different from the kinds of chanting that are showing up now in America, particularly on the left, but not exclusively, where you get this weird sing-songy voice, which is almost like, I don't know, grade school kids. Now, one thing I do know is to keep an eye out for any sign of political strife, because Georgians can get a bit hot-headed in politics, and earlier this year there was some pro-anti-LGBT stuff going on, and it got kind of intense. And when that happens, a person like me shouldn't be anywhere in sight. I'm not, like I say, I'm not really a reporter. I'm not there to try to get news to send out to the world. I'm just documenting this for the channel at the moment. But the truth is, and that's good advice for any country, don't get involved in politics you don't understand. Don't stand in the way. There was actually, I believe it was a Polish journalist who was accidentally killed in the conflagration in the summer. So now they're about to pass the Parliament building, which is a big kind of beige sandstone building, lots of columns and pillars. And I was kind of expecting that this is where they would do political speeches. This is where they used to do political speeches. But the truth is, they redesigned the front of the Parliament and put all these kind of cement flower pots in front of it and put a whole embankment of fountains, so making it very difficult for anyone to storm the Capitol. And then we have a puppeteer. I'd seen this guy once before. He does the kind of like dancing marionette thing with a boombox of sorts. But unfortunately, I knocked out my cameras, so it was a bit blurry. Rehabilitated the footage a little bit at the very beginning of this video, made it kind of look artsy. Then about a week and a half later, I was leaving my house, and again, this is up near Rustaveli Square and Revolution Square, and I noticed all of these vans kind of clogging up the streets, parked on the side of the road. At first I was thinking the marshrutkas are these little like yellow vans, and I was thinking maybe these are new marshrutkas, what's going on with all the marshrutkas? But they're just vans that had brought people in, it turns out. I finally found someone to talk to about it. A couple of kind of street musicians clued me in. They said that the Georgian Dream Party had gone out to the villages, picked people up, and brought them into town. By the way, the McDonald's building, which was actually designed by McDonald's to match in with the architecture in this area, which I must give some credit to McDonald's for doing that. They could have easily made it just a kind of a mindless looking McDonald's building. But anyway, so what's going on is there's another demonstration today, and they've closed off Rustaveli Square once again. So I actually, in both days, I was hoping to get on a bus, go to the top of Matatsuminda Mountain and walk down. It's a nice like hour and a half walk down the hill, down the mountain actually. And you get like, it cost me a grand total of, is it 15 or 16 American cents to do that? pretty great way to spend some time. Just take the bus up and walk down. But anyway, I digress. So what's going on is all these people are arriving, and they're walking down Rustaveli, which is closed. Now, one big difference between this rally and the other is you don't see that many signs. Every now and then you'll see a blue Georgian Dream sign, and you'll see, but not as many Georgian flags, because these people know the Georgian flag is used more predominantly by the Saakashvili party. So they don't have so many. The other thing that's different is that they are not, they didn't start marching all together down to meet the other people. And you're hearing lots more sound. And in fact, I'm going to play you some of that sound here when we get a little closer to where we're going. So I'm walking down here, just kind of mingling with people. I always love walking down the middle of closed streets. I don't know why. It gives me a sense of like, yeah, we got you, cars. You guys, shut up. We own the streets now. I think people should be on the streets. I'm not a huge fan of vehicle traffic, if you might be able to tell. So I'm going to let you hear some of the loudspeakers. And what you'll notice is this weird echo effect. And that echo effect is because there are at least 3 screens. There are 2 screens and a place where people are talking. Broadcasting this, they're kind of staggered just because of the way live recording works and sound delay and things like this. But I want you to hear what they're saying, and I want you to specifically look out for the speaker is going to start listing places in Georgia, basically saying something like, I'm not sure exactly what he's saying, but he's saying something like victory for, or something like victory for the people from this area. And you'll hear places like, Batumi and Ajara and Guria and Svaneti and such. He lists all these places. It's kind of fascinating to listen to. Let's listen to a bit of that.
Tbilisi გაიმარჯვებს, ზუგდიდი გაიმარჯვებს, ქუთაისი გაიმარჯვებს, ბათუმი გაიმარჯვებს, ოზურგეთი გაიმარჯვებს, რუსთავი გაიმარჯვებს, ფოთი გაიმარჯვებს, თელავი გაიმარჯვებს, თიანეთი გაიმარჯვებს, ქარელი გაიმარჯვებს, ხაშური გაიმარჯვებს, საკერი გაიმარჯვებს, ბაღდათი გაიმარჯვებს, ხალხო სენატი გაიმარჯვებს, მარტვილი გაიმარჯვებს, ხობი გაიმარჯვებს, ზალეჯიხა გაიმარჯვებს, ჩოროხო გაიმარჯვებს, ხელვაჭრაელი გაიმარჯვებს და საქართველო გაიმარჯვებს. მერდი მოჩვენი ბარბერი. დიდი მადლობა.
And finally, I arrive at the place where I can go no further. It is literally so crowded. This is what I was trying to show you the other day, but this is far more crowded. There's something like 12,000 people here. Part of the reason for this demonstration is to show that the Georgian dream has far more people than And so as you look down, I just couldn't even penetrate that. And speakers were talking.
საქართველოს ვერ იქნება ძლიერი, თუ არ იქნება ძლიერი თბილისი და ძლიერი რეგიონები. ძალიან ბევრი რამ გაკეთდა იმისთვის, რომ თითოეულმა დაინტერესება.
So, now this was right near this big Galleria mall. I couldn't get into the front, but I knew where the back entrance was. So I went around the back, went up to about the 5th floor, and looked over one of the balconies down upon the streets. Now, this is just the sidewalk, and under the trees that you can't really see them are more people. This is about, I don't know, 15 minutes later. It's thinning out a little bit more. But it is just kind of a crazy pack scene. But I kind of like watching people from above. They look like ants. So now I'm kind of craning my camera towards Liberty Square. But unfortunately, the trees are still in foliage, and you can't see them that well. And finally, on my way back home, I saw some guys playing football, soccer in a field, in just a small courtyard. And of course, no one had any masks on. And then I got stopped by some friends.
How are you?
I'm good. Oh yes. And these guys are from Erisioni, the dance troupe, and they remembered me coming there and photographing them. And it was great to see them. And then I said goodbye.
So, okay.
McDonalds, cagad.
Well, we got 2 political protests in, or rallies. Very much a product of these times. And we discussed what was going on here in Sakartvelo, Georgia, Tbilisi, the capital. And there was so much more to say, but I wasn't taking that many photos or videos during this period just because it's been going on and on and on. You understand. But I think that we're in a different zone here. What it means, I don't know. Again, everything's kind of in limbo. How long will this go on? Nobody knows. As always, I hope not to make another one of these videos of infected Georgia, but you never know. From Tbilisi, this is Byrne for Georgian Crossroads, saying Nakwamdis and Kagat Ik Ave.